Negative GDP figures paint a bleak picture of South Africa's future economic growth. A 12-year-old girl is gunned down execution style in her family's Port Elizabeth home. Hello and welcome to it. You're watching eNews Direct. I'm Duduzile Ramela.
And I'm Sandy Lekangose. Good evening.
To comment on any of our stories, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNews Direct.
And tonight our hashtags are GDP and Steve Mkeshi.
We start with this. South Africa's economic health appears gloomy. The country's gross domestic product has shrunk by 1.2% in the first quarter of 2016. The latest figures show that the economy is in negative territory.
For the first quarter of this year, GDP growth came in lower than expected at negative 1.2% from 0.4% in the last quarter of 2015. Year on year, it's down by 0.2%. Key sectors like mining and agriculture contributed negatively, with mining decreasing by a staggering 18.1%, while agriculture, which fell into its fifth consecutive negative quarter, mainly because of the drought, contracted by 6.5%.
Here we see that the primary industries have been the main culprit, dragging growth by 15%, 15.5%, that's negative. And of course, tertiary industries have just barely skated over the zero mark.
The newly revised numbers, which account for both income and expenditure, show that household consumption, the country's growth engine, collapsed in the first quarter by 1.3%. Consumers have been under pressure with high levels of debt, high interest rates, and increased food prices. If mining was taken out of the equation, then first quarter GDP growth would have been at 0.5%. But because it's the largest contributor of negative growth, if it persists this way, it could open up the country's economy to a technical recession.
Well, the NDP adopted in 2012, August, or was it September 2012, aspires for a 6% growth rate, gradually growing, and 2030. We haven't near smelt growth of 3% since 2014, so it's a very difficult time.
The data also showed that imports and exports both declined by 7.1%. Mutao Khwaripe, Pretoria.
Well, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa says the contraction in the GDP means more work needs to be done to boost the country's economy.
Today we've just heard that we contracted by 1.2%. So that is now going to add more resolve amongst all these key role players to make sure that they work together for inclusive growth. And the ingredients for growth are there. We just need to sit down, reach agreements on what each role player needs to do. The government has a role to play, business as well, labor and communities.
South Africans must put their differences aside and unite to get the country working again. Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan has told the Gauteng Economic Indaba on economic growth. He says the country needs to ignite economic activity, but says government can't do it alone.
South Africa should focus on boosting economic growth and creating jobs. The minister says it's time for action, and the country must demonstrate to the world that it's capable of raising growth above the 0.6% mark.
People who have an interest in South Africa, including ourselves, don't want any more plans. What they want is action. They don't want to hear about promises.
The minister says government is working to turn the economy around, but this must be a collective effort. The key challenge is figuring out how to create high levels of growth. He's urged the country to put more effort into attracting investment.
If you ask many people, they'll say the difference between us as South Africans and many other parts of the world is that we lack urgency. We lack thirst. We lack this absolute burning desire to get people to come into this country, put their money in and work together as government, labor and business so that we can indeed create jobs and lift the 0.7, 0.8, 0.9 number to beyond 2% in another year or two.
Minister Gordhan says the next year will be instrumental as South Africa tries to ensure economic growth. He admits that many challenges remain, but says the political will must be executed to reform the country's economy. John Bailey, Johannesburg.
Let's shift focus on to other news now. When a 12-year-old girl has been killed and her father severely wounded, 4 men broke into their house in the suburb of Bethelsdorp in Port Elizabeth last night. The execution-style murder is believed to be gang-related because the young girl's mother had witnessed a murder.
Her nickname was Angel, and this is where she lived. Her mother allegedly witnessed a gang killing across the road a month ago, and it seems Angel paid for it with her life.
As her parents will call her, she's been an angel, and she has manifested in the school by never having to be reprimanded by any of her teachers. She's been hardworking, diligent, and the saddest moment in my life is that she was not even afforded to reach a high school career.
Classmates have gathered outside her house in support of her family. Inside, her mother is heavily sedated. 4 men broke the back door down, shooting Angel dead, and her 43-year-old father 4 times.
So there's a father now fighting for his life, who fought to protect his children, fought to protect his wife. It's not fair.
The motive for the shootings is yet to be investigated. We are following up on certain leads, and the cases that we are investigating is murder and attempted murder.
The fear among the adults is palpable.
I don't know if these murderers are coming back, or are they still looking for somebody, or still want to do something to the rest of the family. I don't know.
Angel's memorial service will be held next Wednesday. Sandy McCowan, Port Elizabeth.
The United States says the terror alert it issued for South Africa is based on credible information. That's in response to a strongly worded statement by the South African International Relations Department questioning the alert's validity. Local authorities are critical of the way foreign governments have handled the advisory.
Over the past few days, the United States, Britain and Australia have issued travel advisories urging their citizens to avoid tourist hotspots in South Africa. The US says it has information pointing to a possible terror attack in either Johannesburg or Cape Town. International Relations has issued this statement in response, saying it's unhappy with the manner in which the information was handled. It's describing the information as dubious, saying it was provided by a walk-in source. It's also accusing some countries of trying to manipulate and control South Africa's counter-terrorism efforts. The statement follows reports that a discredited East African businessman was the source of the alert, but the State Security Department will not confirm this. The US Embassy in Pretoria is sticking to its original line.
There is no change in the status of the security message issued on June 4th, 2016. It was based on specific, credible, and non-counterable threat information. We have been, and we continue to be, pleased and impressed with the high level of professionalism and transparent cooperation with the government of South Africa throughout this period.
In February, ANC Secretary General Gwede Mantashe accused the US of trying to destabilize South Africa. NGOs such as Media Review Network and CAGE have also spoken out against the warnings, saying they are an attempt to increase security and surveillance around Muslim communities in the country.
International news now, and as Hillary Clinton cemented her status as U.S. Democratic presidential nominee, her rival Bernie Sanders has refused to bow out. Clinton proclaimed victory after decisive wins in the California, New Jersey and New Mexico primaries, hailing a milestone for women in the U.S. A man thought to be at the heart of people smuggling from Africa to Europe has been extradited to Italy. Mered Meden, an Eritrean national, has been flown to Palermo after being detained in Sudan in May. It's the first time a suspected kingpin has been tracked down in Africa and brought to face justice in Italy since Europe's immigration crisis started almost 3 years ago. And clashes between protesters and police in Papua New Guinea have left dozens injured, with reports of 4 dead. Police opened fire on students in the capital demonstrating against Prime Minister Peter O'Neill. They're demanding that he step down and answer to allegations of corruption.
Meanwhile, to do so, there's pop since I give you all of your social media.
Indeed I have. Thank you so much, Sandile. And the Pan-Africanist movement will top ballot papers where it's contesting municipal elections. All other parties will follow in alphabetical order. Over 200 parties will be contesting in local districts countrywide. It's a long-standing tradition in South Africa to use a public draw to select the party that will top the ballot. We end with this. Today is World Oceans Day. This year's theme is Healthy Oceans, Healthy Planet. Individuals and organizations are taking action to prevent plastic pollution in our oceans. In Cape Town, the Two Oceans Aquarium used its hashtag #MyOceanPromise initiative to encourage people to make a promise for abundant, healthy oceans for life. Do remember, we love to hear from you. You can check us out on Twitter and Facebook. That's at eNews Direct. Or you can head on over to our website. That's eNCA.com/direct. We've got your business news after the break, as well as your weather. Money matters now, and South Africa has more time to fix its ailing economy. Ratings agency Fitch has affirmed the country's investment-grade credit rating at BBB negative, with a stable outlook. Fitch is the latest agency to affirm South Africa's investment-grade status. Standard & Poor's and Moody's have South Africa's outlook at negative. Fitch recently warned the country against adopting populist measures like a minimum wage, as these could harm investment. Government has committed to stepping up the implementation of its 9-point plan to boost economic growth. It says it will work with business and labor to restore confidence among local and international investors. And with that, let's see how the markets perform today. Let's check in with the Weather Centre now. Here's Joel Guy.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. We stayed with clear skies throughout Wednesday across the eastern half of South Africa, but we still had patches of high cloud moving into parts of the Free State and the northwest, and a bit of cloud threatening to give us passing showers over the northeastern parts of the Northern Cape. Now look at what we are watching in the Atlantic Ocean, this ominous looking cold front which is racing towards southwestern South Africa. So on Thursday we stay with sunny skies across the eastern provinces. High cloud will continue to move into the western areas, mostly sunny for the Northern Cape, partly cloudy for southern South Africa, and the cold front we saw earlier hits our shores in the evening, and so it's going to be cloudy with overnight rain along the southwest coastline. On the other hand, KwaZulu-Natal stays mostly sunny with warm to hot afternoon temperatures. Ulundi and Pietermaritzburg hitting the 30-degree mark. It's going to be partly cloudy for much of the Eastern Cape with hotter afternoon temperatures over the southern areas, most places seeing temperatures reaching the lower 30s. Partly cloudy weather is also forecast for the back of the Western Cape, but it's going to be mostly cloudy along the southwest coastline with overnight rain over these parts of the country. Cape Town and Hermanus making it to just 19 degrees. Mostly clear skies are forecast for the western parts of the Northern Cape. It's going to be partly cloudy for the eastern areas. Springbok and Appington making it to around 27 degrees. Partly cloudy weather is also forecast for the western parts of the Free State, mostly sunny for the eastern sections. Bloemfontein peaking at 21 degrees. It's going to stay sunny across the northwest with highs mostly in the lower 20s. Clear skies are also forecast across the back of the Limpopo province, a high of 23 for Polokwane, warmer as we go towards Messina and Palabora. In Mpumalanga, we are also going to see clear skies, a warm 27 for the high in Mbombela. It's going to stay fine in Gauteng, Pretoria, making it to around 23 degrees. Friday sees cloudy, rainy and chilly weather setting in across southern South Africa. Then on Saturday, the wet weather spreads into KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga, and we could see a bit of snow over parts of the Eastern Cape.
Thank you, Joel. Here's what's coming up after the break. An original Picasso sketch goes under the hammer in South Africa. for a cool 3 million rand. Welcome back. Now, last month we brought you the story of a 1954 original Picasso crayon drawing to be auctioned for the first time in South Africa.
Well, that artwork is now the property of a local art collector who parted with a whopping 3 million rand for that piece.
Any more 2.7 million rand from the room before we go to the telephones? At 2.7, 2.8 million. Telephone bid now 3. No advance. At 3 million rand. 7 million. The telephone bidder at 3 million rand.
At 3 million rand, this original 1954 Picasso crayon sketch was sold to a South African bidder over the phone.
He did a number of sketches at the time on the theme of the circus. So this is one of a few works that were done on the same theme of the circus. But it's deceptively simple. You look at it and think it's really naive, and then look a little bit deeper and look at the composition, the two figures from either side who look into the center of the work, the perspective and the depth, the way the woman's face is drawn is absolutely fantastic. It's really a perfect profile. So it looks simple, but it's not. It's drawn by somebody who really knew what he was doing.
The piece, titled All Cirque, is certainly well traveled. It was last sold in 2006 in New York for $240,000 US.
I think a private buyer, very probably the buyer in New York, either immigrated here or it was a South African purchaser who bought the work in 2006, brought it across, and it arrived here with us a few weeks ago and consigned by a local Cape Town seller.
But it was not only Pablo Picasso's art that did well at the Stephen Wells & Co. auction. South African artists' works also went under the hammer.
Peter Clark's works did particularly well. Nelson Makama showed rather well. So a number of artists, a number of good local artists delivered really good and really solid results, which indicates strength in the South African art market.
Picasso's rendering of this image was also a tribute to the works of Diego Velázquez and Rembrandt van Rijn, painters he had adored throughout his life. Tim Tongana, Cape Town.
Here's a reminder of the day's top stories before we say goodbye. Negative GDP figures paint a bleak picture of South Africa's future economic growth. A 12-year-old girl is gunned down execution style in her family's Port Elizabeth home. And that's a wrap from the eNews Direct team.
Yes, indeed. Rhythm City's up next. We're back same time tomorrow.
We do love to hear from you. You can send us an email to enewsdirect@etv.co.za.
Well, of course, you can just talk to us on Twitter and Facebook, and our handle is @eNewsDirect.
Until tomorrow night, have a fantastic evening. Bye-bye.